Chapman, and I'm going to talk about a project that I made called Forever Composed Owls. And it was inspired by the restoration work going into kelp forests around Sussex, but also, I'll talk a bit more about the details later, what the nature and the biodiversity that we do still have in the UK and our relationship with that. My background to arts is slightly convoluted in that my background was in neurodiversity within an education context. So I worked in London colleges for years, and I actually used to assess people and work with people with neurodiversity but also physical disability. But I myself have a chronic illness. So I was always interested in that sort of tension between subjective lived experience and the objective, can't help but do air quotes but the objective view of these sorts of things. So yeah, this sort of idea of perceptual diversity, because I've been exploring my own lived experience of chronic illness, I'm really interested in the phenomenological view of human experience, that we're embodied beings. In order to try and experience the world as other life forms, we need culture and storytelling. Is exploring that within this project. And I was really inspired by Amitav Ghosh, The Great Derangement, and this idea that really, as culture makers, as artists, imagining other forms of human existence is almost an obligation. Well, I certainly felt it in my work. I think it's really often quoted that we're one of the most nature-depleted countries on earth, and we're at bottom 10% globally for biodiversity. And so many people feel that nature and biodiversity is elsewhere. That's quite a dangerous way of thinking about the natural world. So this is a film that I saw about the Sussex restoration of kelp forests, and it is classically what you were talking about. I mean, this obviously is not the Sussex kelp forest. This must be in Scotland, but I don't know where it is, because the Sussex is completely depleted by trawling and destructive fishing practices. But I saw this film and I was really struck by the size and the majesty of the kelp forest, just the scale of it. I just hadn't appreciated. Maybe because of the A3 format of the Jacines. But just the sheer beauty of it. I really wanted to express that sort of wonder and awe that I was feeling at that moment, and to learn exactly about the kelp forest, the specifics of the environment, because they are hugely important. But I feel very much unknown in the UK. I feel they're out of sight, under the waterline, and therefore not really celebrated. And culturally, we don't have a tradition of eating seaweed. Ireland and Wales do, but it's often thought of as a famine food because of connotations with the potato famine and the reliance on seaweed as an alternative food. And I just feel like our whole kind of cultural understanding of seaweed, of those ecosystems, is very negative. This is one of my first sketches of what I wanted to create. So this is a kind of 2-scale sketch of the Laminaria digitata. I think I'm saying that wrong. But I wanted to create a full-size forest for people to walk through, to sort of get that sense of scale and that sense of the wonder of it. So I was I contacted Sussex University, who were actually involved in the marine conservation project, and I was lucky that one of the researchers was super enthusiastic and worked with me, and she sort of explained exactly which species would be in the kelp forests, and then I went and did lots of beach combing and did my own seaweed pressings, and that's when I went to the Natural History Museum just to learn more about how to press seaweed. And eventually I realised that if I wanted any kind of dynamism, I had to stop pressing seaweed because it's completely static and not very exciting. My background is printmaking, and print beds are not big enough. So I eventually tend to say, and I like that sense of connection with the past and that sort of moving through time, but it allowed me to scale up. This need for a sense of scale in my finery. I'd like to read a poem I wrote called Forest, which is based on a collaborative writing project with Chris, Doug Renier, and inspired by poem 690 by Emily Dickinson. Slapping waves shock the furrowed brows of the shore. Incessant breezes skim the sea foam, worrying for time ending. The tides reveal and conceal, bridging two worlds, fluid, grounding, emerging, submerging. Beneath the surface, sun shafts meet the ocean floor. A forest sways in the currents. Anchored, tenacious, it holds fast against the eddying tides that whisper around the seabed, bringing a tangle of life to maturity, fermenting the future. A siren calls. Forever is composed of now, not a different time. It is now, and now, and now, and years exhale into infiniteness.